This is it. This is my life. And a voice talked to me. And it mentioned dignity. I said, dignity? I don't know how many, there's no dignity in this. And it said to me, dignity isn't in what you do. Dignity is in you. And in finding the dignity in you, everything you do from that time on will become dignified. Hey everybody, GP here, and I wanted to tell you a story. It's a story about finding your dignity, finding the significance and value that you have. It was a true story. This happened to me. It was a long time ago. I'd been on the spiritual path, and for a couple of years after having an initial spiritual experience, I was just floating. I could do no wrong. You know, the heavens were parting, the Red Sea was parting, but then other stuff started to happen. Things became more difficult. My life became more complex and complicated. I had to mature. I had to grow and cultivate the spirituality. So it was time for the honeymoon to be over. But at any rate, to make a long story short, I found myself having a very difficult time making a living. I was working at a 7-Eleven in Barrington, Illinois, in the middle of winter, on the midnight shift. Now, my estranged wife showed up one day, said she wanted to take the kids. I had 2 young children that I was raising by myself. She wanted to take them for a day. I said, well, fine. Yeah, that's fine. Well, she ended up getting them on a plane and flying them 2,000 miles away. It's Christmas time. I've got this incredibly horrible job. My kids have just been stolen from me. And needless to say, I was about as low as a human being could get at that point. Not only that, it's winter, it's December, and my job in the middle of the night was to sort the bologna and make sure that the floor stayed clean of mud. Any of you who have lived in the Midwest in the winter know keeping a floor clean of mud in a store is an almost impossible feat. Well, I was just completely, I was just a mess. It was horrible. What can I say? It was horrible. I was just completely dumbfounded, right? I'd gone from the heights of the spiritual adventure down into the dregs. Well, that night, as I was mopping the floor for about the 20th time, I was just muttering. I was really grumbling and grussing. I said, this is terrible. This is just, what happened? All my potential, it's just completely out to lunch. This is it. This is my life. And a voice talked to me. And it mentioned dignity. I said, dignity? I don't know how many, there's no dignity in this. And it said to me that dignity isn't in what you do. Dignity is in you. And in finding the dignity in you, everything you do from that time on will become dignified. Well, it was such a revelation, and it was so obviously true. How much my power I had given away, my sense of self-worth and self-value. It was completely tied to what I could do, and in this instance, it wasn't much. And I reclaimed it in that moment. That insight, that inspiration, that divine message from wherever those come from really sunk into my heart. And it just transformed it. The whole night suddenly just was glowing. And I swear, when the boss came in the next morning, that place was glowing like you've never seen. But it didn't stop there. Several events took place over the next couple of weeks. I found myself working someplace else, at 2 or 3 jobs at a time, because I was, At that point, I was a single father up to that night. It suddenly unfolded, and over the next 2 to 4 weeks, I found myself in another job. It was a full-time job. Didn't have to do a lot of part-time jobs. I did really well in it. They kept, they kept promoting me and stuff. But it's there that I happened to run across computers, and I'd never seen a computer before. This was before PCs, by the way, right? This was like 1979, something like that. I'd never seen one before, so well, that's interesting, and I picked it up and I plugged it in. One thing led to another, and before I know it, I was doing projects for the guy who ran the inventory center that I was working in. I eventually got promoted and moved out to San Francisco, 2,000 miles away from Chicago, a completely different world, a completely different life. And after being at that place for another couple of years, I went on my own as a contractor. I left work on Friday. On Monday, when I started, my salary had doubled. And it was just like this constant increase after that. Now, it took about 4 years for it to get to that point, and then it continued to grow, and I had all sorts of great adventures before I finally left that world. But the point is that it came from inside. I discovered that dignity. Now, tell you the truth, I have lost it on occasion. There's been times like, nothing's working. Why isn't it? And I find myself grumbling a little bit, and I just have to catch myself and remember that voice, that it's the dignity is in you. What you do doesn't give you dignity. Your dignity gives everything you do that glow of value. There's an inherent value in us all. Everybody has it. There's something about you, unique about you, that doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. It's never existed, and it's never going to exist again. You are unique in all the world, in all time and space. That is the source of your value, not market skills. I acquired market skills along the way, which was a big help, obviously, but that wasn't what drove the process. That drove me in the direction that opened me up to things that I hadn't seen before. And I ended up making a very good living at it, raising my 2 kids, taking care of a business as I needed to, and then eventually started another business of my own, and eventually started teaching this because it's more important than that. So my message is clear, that I was ashamed of myself. When I was back sitting in that 7-Eleven in the middle of the night, I was ashamed of myself. I felt it was my fault that I'd blown it. I made some stupid decisions that were going to hound me for the rest of my life. None of that was actually true. In that moment of discovering that inherent dignity, the shame abated. There was nothing for me to be ashamed of. I was unique in all the world, and that the job didn't make me. The job didn't determine my value or my character. What was available to me in the moment did not shape my character. I did. I took that to heart. I ran with it. And I just wanted to share that with you, because I am doing a workshop on the healing of shame, because that's what it was. It was a healing of just being ashamed of where I had been. In music school, I was doing great. I was getting all sorts of praises, and then all of a sudden, a couple of decisions, and I was absolutely down in the doldrums. I look at it now and I go, I'm glad it happened. I would not have chosen it. This would not be, how I wanted it to work out, to learn the lesson of dignity, but I'm glad it happened. Because I learned to look deeply within myself to find who I am in here. And that has intrinsic value that no one can take away. So, I hope you'll join me in my workshop. I hope you'll share this video and comment on it. In the meantime, remember that remember that your dignity, your worth, your value, your inherent infinite value is inherent. Nobody can actually take it away from you. And you just need to discover it. Claim it as your own. And you will find absolutely life-transforming events taking place. Thanks for listening. Love you all. Namaste.